Hello everybody, Dokkan Assets here. Me when I spread misinformation on the internet. That's right, we're back for another breaking figure news video. I know I said I probably wouldn't make another one of these. However, not only did that Orange Piccolo video do incredibly well, surprisingly well, in fact. Thank you guys so much for that. That video actually popped off. With that video doing so well and us getting a ton of new NYCC info, I wanted to do a quick update video on it here, and I figured it would kind of feel a little bit more appropriate to sort of give you the official updates that we've gotten, because obviously yesterday's stuff was like kind of leaks, right? So let's get into it. We have two smaller things to cover before we take a look at the big stuff, right? One thing that I wanted to note that was interesting, of course, shout out to the boy at Havoc Toys. Here we have Gohan and Piccolo on display at NYCC. And the thing that I wanted to note here that is quite interesting is you can see those are the glasses from the Piccolo, wow. Piccolo don't wear no glasses. Do Namekians need glasses? Anyway, Gohan, right? Obviously the one with the cloak and the base form head that is going to be coming with the SH Figure Arts Gammas, right? Those are the glasses from that figure. So it's interesting that it seems like you can actually remove the glasses from that figure and put them in the hands of another figure. I do think that is quite neat and something that I just kind of wanted to note. Again, a very small thing, because all of this, don't worry, we'll see that a little bit later. This was also pretty cool. This is actually on the display at NYCC, a full-size version of both of these figures, and the SH Figure Arts versions of these figures, because you can see they have all of the actual like seams for where it would be able to bend in real life. So Tamashii Nations, right, finally gave us the official release for not just the third form Frieza, which this is the official image for this guy, but ya boy, Orange Piccolo got his official image here. This looks so good. I wish they would have posted more images, but this is literally the only official image that I have seen, and I mean, it's the only official image on Tamashii Nation's Instagram page, so it looks really good. Honestly, I could not be more excited for this figure. I'm so hyped to see this thing in person, ladies and gentlemen. And this shot looks very, very nice. Again, I cannot wait until we get some more shots of this guy. This is probably going to be the highest quality shot that we have for a while, because this is basically like the SH Figure Arts version of a production image, right? Of sort of like the thing that they're going to use to promote the figure. Besides that, though, one interesting thing that I wanted to share with all of you is that Tamashii actually did a official live stream here at the NYCC Dragon Ball booth, where they basically went through and showed off all of the different figures, and they showed off the actual Dragon Ball booth, right? They showed off some of the different statues and stuff like that. So don't worry, I'm not gonna goof you out of seeing all of this stuff. We actually have pictures of this, but I'm just telling you this because if you want to go watch this full video, and not to mention this video is 12 minutes long, so if we just watch the whole thing, it could practically be a video in and of itself, right? Which, I mean, we could just watch through the whole thing and that would be kind of cool. But obviously, if there's points where I want to pause and whatnot and take a little bit of a deeper look at some of the figures, then of course, we will be able to do that with images better. But if you would like to watch this video, obviously I'll leave a link in the description to everything we were looking at. But we're looking at News Toy Arc. We have used their website before for a couple of the figure news videos before. So we're going to just click through the images here, and that way we'll be able to spend a little bit more time on each of the actual booths, rather than the person just pointing the camera at it and then walking away, right? So, of course, we have all of the bad boys here. We have Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, and Piccolo on display. Of course, these are the superhero figures we've seen for a while. Funny enough, they display their actual retail price and if they were released or not. 35 bucks for Gohan is going to be a hard find, because he has been resold for so much since his initial release. Obviously, these guys we've seen time and time again. I don't know why they... Why did my man include that picture? Oh, maybe so you could see the stand a little bit better? I don't know. You could still see it fine there. Kind of interesting. Maybe they just included everything. But yeah, so obviously we've seen these guys before. This guy, however, we have not really seen too many close-up pictures of him. This, of course, is the Con exclusive Super Saiyan Broly. We talked about this guy in a past figure news video. And honestly, this guy, very interesting figure. I definitely like the body a lot more than I like the head. Maybe it's just the face, because honestly, seeing like the screaming head inside the box looks a lot better than the sort of stale face that they have on my man, right? I think his eyes are maybe a little bit too thin, but on the screaming head, it looks a lot better. By the way, this is so cool how they sort of got the print from the art that's on the box for event exclusives, which they always do this art style, right? You can see that they sort of printed that on here, which I think is super dope. But yeah, Broly looks pretty cool. He almost looks, oh, don't worry, we'll get to that in a minute. He almost looks like glow-in-the-dark-esque, which is kind of interesting. You can also see that he has a gritting teeth face as well as the screaming face in there. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just the lighting in here that makes this figure kind of look a little bit glow-in-the-dark, like especially with the aura behind him, he kind of looks like it. I definitely like the sort of pearlescent look of the actual cloak here, right? I think that looks pretty cool, if I do say so myself. As well, you can obviously see a little bit of the sparkle on the actual armor, which is pretty neat. 90 bucks for this guy, though, which I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a big ask, especially for a figure that is literally just a shiny paint recolor. That's not even like a crazy recolor like some of the other ones that we've seen. I mean, granted, the OG Broly, I think, was somewhere around that price, but I feel like it was closer to 70. But definitely doesn't look too bad. I think this guy definitely looks a lot better in person. But I would like to see the actual screaming head on him, because I feel like then the figure would look like really, really good. Moving past him, though, here is the Orange Piccolo booth in full. The pictures that we saw of him yesterday, interestingly enough, were either when the booth was not completely set up yet, or was some sort of preview thing that some early access people got to see. Because if you remember, there was no background on Piccolo's booth when we saw yesterday, because we were able to see the symbol on his back, right? So it's interesting to me that they now have the walls on here. That does kind of lead me to believe that the pictures we saw from yesterday, if we actually go back to Havoc here, yeah, what this kind of looks like is this almost looks like the base of the display that's not set up quite yet, right? Like you can see the little lights are there and the rocks are there from, where's the one where there's more detailed pictures? Those ones are under pans, that's right. Yeah, because you can see the back of the figure here, but the base, you can tell, is like this orange thing that they have going on here. So maybe they just didn't have the display set up when we got those initial pictures. But yeah, Orange Piccolo, obviously we took a look at him in that original video, but he looks fantastic in person. These are some even more high quality pictures of the big bad boy himself. Looks great. They definitely nailed the feet as well. That was something that we didn't get to see yesterday, I believe. Again, they're going to have to definitely work on that little bit of gapping in the chest area. Obviously, this is the same figure that we saw yesterday. His hands do look a little bit too light as well. I feel like they're almost like a lighter orange than his body. Maybe that is accurate to the movie, but I don't remember them being that light comparatively, so they might have to match the color a little bit more. Keep in mind, these are prototypes on display for the figures that aren't released yet, so it only makes sense that obviously the figure is not yet totally complete. Yeah, very, very cool. Look at that one. Oh my gosh, that picture looks so good, dude. I'm so excited for this figure. It's going to be so, so, so nice. Ooh, and a very nice HD close-up. I actually didn't even know this was in here. Wow. I think they really nailed Orange Piccolo's expression as well. That was one other big thing that I wanted to highlight. I think they really got his look super down, because sometimes with SH Figure Arts figures, like in the modern day, they have been doing them really, really well, the face sculpts, right? Older SH Figure Arts figures were definitely more like toy-esque sort of like action figures, but they've definitely been doing a lot better job of like getting them very anime accurate. And I think this figure does not disappoint. Like, holy cow, that looks like it's ripped right from the silver screen. That is sick, if I do say so myself. Look at my man. Oh, he looks so good. I'm so excited, bro. Definitely a very nice looking figure. Although I don't know who posed this, that they didn't make the arms equal. What are you doing? Did it look like that on the one yesterday? Yeah, no, it was posed the same way, because you can see that his one hand is like closer to him. Interesting. So he must have just been like that overnight. interesting. Obviously, this was the little teaser that we got that we are hoping, praying, and assuming that this is going to be Gohan Beast when they reveal this figure in a month at Tamashii Nations Tokyo. So we will get to see what that is when that happens. But we did get some more high quality pictures of Broly here. Actually, some really high quality pictures. Holy cow. This looks honestly really good. This face sculpt looks so much better, right? We saw in those images from yesterday. Right here, right? It kind of looked a little bit weird because, I mean, the image is blurry and it was kind of hard to tell. But, man, that is a good looking figure. I think that face sculpt is absolutely perfect. They nailed Broly's look. It looks really, really good. I think that as well, the bottom half of Broly, they also did a pretty good job with. Again, it's literally ripped from the original one, so why would it not be? Funny enough, I have the figure right here. I literally have it in my hand. It is quite literally, I'm comparing it to the screen. It is the same. The color of the pants may be slightly brighter, though that could also just be the lighting on the display, right? One thing that is interesting is that on the original Broly with the base form head that they included, he had more of a matte finish for the hair, where the hair on this one looks a lot shinier, which is kind of interesting. As well, I will say, I almost feel like that his top half isn't bulky enough. Maybe that's kind of weird to say, but I honestly feel like that his like muscles and especially his chest, right? His arms maybe so, but his chest and his abs definitely don't look big enough to me. Maybe that's just me, but it kind of doesn't look like they're big enough for his legs. I don't know. Maybe it helped with the original figure having armor that sort of compensated for that. But regardless, this figure does look really, really nice. And with this HD picture here, is there another one that's going to pop up right here? Oh, yeah, baby. Look at that. You can actually see that the figure is articulated right here at the chest area, so you'll actually be able to get a little bit of articulation on that top half, and he should have a pretty decent ab crunch. I would think that this figure would also be kind of hard to scuff up, because obviously the paint is just black paint, right? So I would think that any scuff marks wouldn't really show as much as they may show on other SH Figuarts figures. But yeah, overall this guy looks really good. I will be curious to see if the top half of the body, I'll have to do a video on the full power Broly, because I actually do have that in storage. I just haven't opened it yet. I mean, I'm going to do that once I get my SH Figuarts Gogeta, because I did get a copy of that and it broke when I literally opened it out of the box. So I currently have a new one coming in from customer support, thanks to Tamashii. But my point of saying that is I'm very curious to see if the top half of this figure is literally just the top half of the body from the full power Broly, obviously without the scar, and they just retooled it a little bit to be the black shirt. I kind of hope that's not the case. Well, not kind of. I really hope that's not the case, because obviously reusing is kind of stinky, but, you know, they definitely could have done that. I could absolutely see that being the case for sure. So it'll be interesting to see when we get this guy in hand. I'll actually be able to compare him to the other two SH Figuarts Broly's that we have. I mean, unless you count the con exclusive one that we've been looking at. But yeah, technically all three. Ooh, a nice butterfly joint there as well. You do love to see that for sure. Very, very cool, if I do say so myself. Definitely very, very nice. Yeah, this figure looks really good overall. Yeah, I feel like his body should fill out a little bit more of the cloak too. Like, I think that it doesn't have to be all the way, because obviously you have to have a little bit of space for it to move. And on the original Broly, funny enough, you actually had no waist swivel whatsoever. You could only swivel the upper body because it was, like, attached to the cloak. So it'll be interesting to see. Oh, no, well, no, actually, there is waist swivel. I just lied to you. I just pulled his body a little bit and got it. But it's harder to swivel the waist, I guess is what I should say, because the cloak is there and, like, the armor is so filled out in that area of it, right? Nonetheless, though, this guy looks really, really good, and I'm going to be curious to see if you can swap the heads on these Brolys, right? On all the different Broly figures that we had, on all the different bodies. That will be very cool to see if you can do that. This was pretty cool to see. I don't think this is any effect that you can actually buy, but this is pretty insane for the little booth where they're showing off. Oh my gosh, that picture is not great. There we go. The Super Saiyan Gohan, right? Which obviously this accessory comes with Gamma 1. And of course Gamma 1 himself, right? Which he also looks pretty good. His head looks a little bit weird here, but I think it's just the angle that the picture's being taken at. The blaster looks really nice, though. Holy cow, that looks super good. What other images here? Okay, I was just wondering if there's anything else from this setup. But yeah, this is a really cool effect piece. Again, I don't think that this is going to be something you can actually buy. I'm sure that this is just something that they have as a display piece. But this is really cool to see them display figures like this. And obviously seeing stuff like this as well sort of gives you some ideas for ways that maybe you could display your own figures as well. Definitely very cool. Like that ball, I don't think they would make, but maybe this crazy effect piece, I don't know. They maybe could definitely get something like that in the future. It'd be interesting if maybe Pan came with like an effect piece like that, like we sort of talked about. Could be possible in yesterday's video. This is such a big case for these small little figures here. It's just so funny to see this. Obviously Pan, right? You can see that she definitely still has that little bit of articulation on her. And it will be interesting to see what ends up coming with her in terms of the pieces. Yeah, this definitely wasn't set up because if you can see, right, the back part of this was not there yesterday. So yeah, this was definitely like the people who were setting up were taking pictures and sneaking them online. That's really funny. But yeah, Piccolo looking very proud. Yo, I'm almost convinced now that they put in the smiling Piccolo face just so you could pair this figure with Pan. Since Gohan didn't have a smile, maybe that's a little bit of a SH Figure Arts conspiracy theory. I don't know. And then, of course, here we have Gohan fighting Gamma 2. You can see that Gohan looks pretty good. Unfortunately, it's going to be kind of hard to get a good angle of this because obviously since he's looking backwards, right, it's going to be a little bit harder to see that. Though we can get some interesting detail on the cape here. That is a little bit unfortunate to see that it is basically just a giant hunk of plastic that is on a hinge rather than being a actual, like, malleable plastic, or maybe something more akin to, what's another character that has a cape? Well, Boo's cape is just like a solid piece for SH Figure Arts. I don't know, maybe just being more of a rubbery piece that you could move around. I don't know. I think the hinge is just way too in your face, right? Like, it just is too obvious that it's like this giant hinge there, right? Like SH Figure Arts, obviously, you can tell that the joints are there, right? Because, of course, it's a posable figure. But that's kind of like really in your face, you know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure that the final version of this will probably look like it because obviously they just finished the pre-orders of these guys, and I would have to assume that they're already being made. You know, again, I don't know that for sure, but that's just sort of my educated guess on this sort of thing. However, Gohan does look pretty good from what we can see with the face here. It is interesting. I think the hair sculpt looks really good. It does look a little bit weird on his neck. Maybe the person who put this figure together kind of didn't know what they were doing because this looks a little bit like his head is sort of forward. I don't know. That is definitely a little bit strange. But the glasses do look pretty cool. It definitely looks like that it is on this faceplate that they just sort of shove it in behind his ears. Like you can see there's a little flap almost for his ears right there, which is pretty interesting. Kind of yucky. You can see all the plastic lines on this though. For a quote-unquote premium product, that is a little bit unfortunate to see. Even like the seam line on the cloak there, on the cape rather, that's a little bit yucky. Is that a dent as well on that? I can't really tell. But yeah, pretty cool though with the displays that they have. Obviously, it's nice that they have the water drops in the background too, because of course, you know, they're fighting in the rain in the scene, so that is pretty neat. Here are all the Friezas. Obviously, this display we got to see yesterday, and again, my gosh, second form Frieza is a monster. I almost want that figure just because of how big he is. To be fair, I do have first form Frieza, and I do have the re-release of this Frieza. So I don't know, low-key, maybe it's time to cop all of Frieza's forms. That would be kind of cool, but like, this figure is so big, dude, it almost just makes me kind of want to get it. And he looks really good, too. This figure looks really nicely sculpted. Yeah, third form Frieza is definitely not as big as I think people would have maybe wanted him to be, but he still looks pretty good. You can see a little bit of paint chipping there, unfortunately, or not chipping, but a little bit of like overspray rather. Maybe that's a chip right there. But I mean, the figure sculpt looks really good overall. Again, I'll be very curious to see how this guy actually like stands up without support. That'll be definitely pretty interesting to see. Look at how big his cranium is. Holy cow. That box is going to have to be huge to compensate for his fat head. But yeah, here were some of the other booths that they had, right? Some very interesting choices for figures to show off. You can see that obviously they picked Whis and Beerus. Then we also have the Broly movie well, technically the Broly movie. It's more just like Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, but it sort of came out for the Broly movie. We also have the Super Saiyan God Goku, which I think this one is, yeah, this is the event exclusive color version. I was going to say the hair definitely looks like that to me. It doesn't look like the normal one, right? And then, of course, we have the Golden Frieza here, too, which apparently is also the exclusive color version. I will say it's also very interesting to me that they actually display these and then just say order closed, right? Like, you literally can't buy these anymore, and they have them on display just to tease you. I don't know. I just think that's such an interesting approach to business. As well, one thing that you can see is SH Figuarts has definitely stepped up their game on their face sculpts, right? Like, Vegeta and Frieza here, like Frieza's way older than Vegeta, and even Vegeta's face sculpt isn't that good. But I think even, or I'm sorry, it's not that bad rather. But what I was going to say is compared to Goku's, right? Goku's is absolutely fantastic. Like that is spot on for Super Saiyan God Goku, right? So you can see that they've even come a long way, even in just that regard, right? Also, I just wanted to point this out. It's kind of funny how they basically give you a little description of the figures here, and new standard of action figures, right? Sometimes with those premium Bandai releases, I'm not so sure, brother. But yeah, very cool. And this was obviously the big thing that I wanted to show off. This is also probably in the thumbnail too, because this is a pretty big deal. We have CHEELAI as a SH Figuarts figure. And as well, we have the boy LEMO 2. I cannot believe that these two are getting SH Figuarts figures. I'm actually so happy about this. I did not expect this whatsoever. However, this does make me a little bit mad in a weird kind of way. Not that the figures exist or that we're getting them, because I'm super excited about that. But you're telling me that they're willing to release Broly movie figures in 2022. And they couldn't have just made Broly, right? Like this Broly. Where's my man at? They couldn't have just made this Broly, just a separate Broly movie figure release. And instead, they had to include him in the, like, superhero figure roster. The only thing that's frustrating about that, and like, I like that Broly movie figure. I think it looks really good, right? And I think that it's definitely a welcome addition and a figure that I wanted personally. But it's just kind of goofy to me that they wouldn't want that slot to be taken up by another superhero figure, right? It almost kind of makes me think with Broly specifically, right? It almost makes me wonder if the reason why they released this figure was just because it was easier for them to make, since they already had two other SH Figuarts Brolys. They could literally just slap the pieces together from and then make this figure. And then they could spend a little bit more time on Gohan Beast. Like, I almost wonder if Gohan Beast was meant to be one of these three, but either they wanted to take more time on him or some complications or something came up. And they just decided to add Broly to the roster instead. But yeah. It's just so weird to me that they would release Broly movie figures and then they would include Broly as one of the figures in, you know, the the superhero stuff. I almost said SDVH. I don't know. Just kind of strange to me. The other thing I will say that is going to be very interesting about these two figures is obviously these guys are not going to scale incredibly well with the current SH Figuarts line. I mean, if they do, these figures are incredibly small. Like, these look like normal sized figures to me, right? Like, especially looking at them on the base. They're definitely smaller than your average SH Figuarts figure. I mean, they're also super skinny, so that makes sense too. But the way that they're built, right? Like, compared to a normal, like, Saiyan character, I feel like they're not going to scale. Which, I mean, kind of makes sense because obviously CHEELAI and LEMO, I mean, especially compared to Broly, they are, like, tiny, right? They're super short compared to Broly. So making them size accurate to the SH Figuarts line, I feel like would not be the greatest idea, because then they wouldn't be able to make the figure as articulated, and as well, right? It'll kind of be a lower quality figure, I would think, or it would just be like weird that you're not getting a normal sized figure. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just some interesting complications with how tall the characters are and the dilemma of deciding to like sort of keep to the source material or make the figure better. Regardless, I think both of these guys look fantastic. I am absolutely excited to get both of these. I love the Broly movie a lot. It's, you know, one of my favorite Dragon Ball properties ever. So I'm super excited that these two are getting figures. Maybe CHEELAI, like, could have been like, sure, I could see that happening, but LEMO, not in a million years, bro. So I'm so happy that my guy is getting a figure. I'm also going to be curious to see if his hat will be removable, because obviously in the movie he doesn't wear his hat for the whole time, so that will be very interesting. Definitely very excited for that, though. Absolutely. Here we have a display, funny enough, with all of the 3 currently released Brolys. I guess technically you can count the con exclusive one as a currently released one. They have this guy on 2 different displays, and ironically enough, this is literally what I asked for, if they could have my man with the screaming head. Is there another picture of this? Yes, a close-up. This absolutely looks so much better than that stinky gritting teeth face. I don't know why they didn't decide to market the figure more with this face, because I feel like people would have been more interested. I still feel like his eyes are too small, like especially compared to the whites of the eyes of, oh my gosh, they have a bunch of Brolys on display. Okay, we'll take a look at that in a second. Like especially him, right? Like the full power Broly, my man's eyes feel like they're a lot more filled out than this Broly, which I just think is really interesting. By the way, I can definitely tell you that from looking at that Broly, right, they absolutely didn't reuse the top half for this guy, because this guy is a lot more chunky, especially his arms. Holy cow. Those arms are a lot bigger than this Broly. If anything, they definitely reused the arms from this Broly, right, and then maybe they, I don't know, had like the pre-existing body under the armor or something like that. But they clearly just reused the arms, and they definitely didn't use the top half from this guy, for sure. But yeah, nonetheless, though, I mean, this looks pretty cool. You can see that sort of pearlescent look on the chest a lot more clearly here on this image, right? It's also interesting to see, like, I really like the sort of shiny look of the hair, where it's kind of like this sort of glossy look to the hair, right? And you can see the light reflecting off of it in a really cool way. But they picked such a weird color, right, for the hair. Like, Broly's hair is a lot more yellow than this almost like beige kind of color, right? Like sort of tan almost for this figure, which I think is really interesting. I don't know, it just seems like such an odd choice. I know as well for sure, if you did want to throw the Broly head on from the original Broly, like from either of these two guys onto this figure, I don't think the skin tone matches. I mean, like you can even see in this picture here, the skin tone is so much darker than these two, which is fine, but it's kind of unfortunate because then you end up with a product that can only kind of work with itself, and you can't really mix and match the parts from all these other Brolys that we already have. I mean, maybe unless you repaint the face or something like that, but yeah, kind of interesting. I'm not gonna lie. I do like the shiny look on the cloak, though. I know it's definitely not for everybody, and it's definitely like not really movie accurate, I guess, but it's still pretty cool if I do say so myself. So then we have a display here. Is there a better image of this? No, there is not. Okay, well, either way, basically we have Goku and Vegeta doing the Gallic Kamehameha. I can see the boys who are trying to pose this one were struggling a little bit because this looks a little bit janky. But I mean, to be fair, getting a perfect pose for figures like that is kind of hard to do. So I can't really knock them because I know for sure I would not have been able to pose them as well as they did. So props to them for that. And obviously this scene is sort of supposed to be when Blue Goku is looking up at Broly there, which is pretty cool if I do say so myself. It is interesting how Broly isn't really looking at him there. But nonetheless, I still think it does look pretty cool. It's always nice seeing them have the figures actually like set up a little bit in these cool little displays. We did get to see Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and Imperfect Cell and Porunga again. We did see all of these guys at SDCC, I believe. Maybe not Porunga, but we've seen a bunch of images of Porunga already. Obviously, Dende is not articulated. I think maybe his arms might be. Don't quote me on that, though. But obviously, he's not articulated to the point where they are. Also, his, like, antlers, or not his antlers, his antenna, rather, sorry, look a little droopy, honestly. And he kind of looks a little bit cheap quality, if I'm being honest, which is Something that should not be present for a figure that is about $300. Is he sticky to... Listen, I didn't want this to turn into a rant video. I'm going to move past the QC issues and just hope that this is some prototype shenanigans. I guess it's because he doesn't actually have anywhere where he plugs in. Because I would think he would be facing Piranga and the Dragon Balls, and maybe, yeah, that's probably it. They did this because they wanted him to face, like, the glass so you would actually see him. Also, it kind of looks like his head is on a ball joint, so that'll be interesting to see. Yeah, he looks very cheap plastic. This looks like a $1 figure, I'm not going to lie. Very interesting. Imperfect Cell looks good, though. This is definitely not the most flattering face for my boy, but I've seen this figure before, and it looks really, really good. Obviously, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta on display as well. Also looking very good. I still think his face looks a little bit weird. I'll be interested to see like what the other sculpts look like in person too. But yeah, very cool with the booth. Obviously, it's always super sick to see that they have like the SH Figuarts versions of these statues on display, sort of. Where it's not just like a Piccolo and a Gohan statue. It's like the actual SH Figuarts figure, which is super sick. You can also see there's some more on display here, but these are all figures that we've seen up until this point. But yeah, very cool seeing these guys here. Obviously, this is super sick too. Seeing this directly right out of the movie, right? Of course, this is supposed to be like in Magenta's office. I guess you would call that his office, right? Like the room that they're always scheming in. That thing in the background that's sort of like the screen that they watch everything on. So that's really cool. Definitely very nice to see. It's nice to touch as well, having Gamma 1 and 2 there too. And it's cool that they use the screenshots from the movie of the characters, because obviously they sort of make them like evil to trick Dr. Hedo. But yeah, here's another little display. They're basically just talking about Premium Bandai here, and some of the figures that you can get. Obviously talking about some of the figures from the color exclusive versions, the Kefla, Zamasa, which actually that figure looks really good. The 17, the 18, which funny enough, I have these guys in the box. I just haven't opened them up yet. And that is the end of all of the Dragon Ball stuff for today's video. I know that was a lot longer than we sort of anticipated there, and honestly, it was longer than I thought it was going to be honest with you. But I am very excited for this. By the way, it's so funny to me that the official Tamashii Nation's Twitter doesn't have as good of a picture as Havoc has for CHEELAI and LEMO. I just think that's kind of goofy, to be honest with you. It looks like my man took this in a little bit of a hurry. But nonetheless, this is all very, very exciting information. I am so glad that I got to make a video on this, because this probably would have ended up being like a 2.5 hour figure news video. So now I can sort of go over this stuff quickly in our, 2-week figure news recap video, and then just kind of, tell you, hey, go check out this video if you want it to be a little bit more in detail in this stuff. But obviously we'll just go over it lickety-split. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely let me know what you think of all of these stuff that we have seen today. Obviously this was a lot of really cool stuff, a lot of really, really awesome announcements as well. I'm assuming that we're probably not going to get any other crazy figure news at NYCC, because of course by now we would have known, right? Anybody at this point could go onto the convention floor and see all the figures displayed. So of course there's not really going to be any surprises, at least as far as I'm aware, that we'll be seeing coming up here. So this should basically be the extent of it. Very, very good showing this year. Again, I am very excited to see a lot of these figures when we get to see more images of them. Very, very exciting stuff. Let me know what was your favorite though. I know for me it's easily Orange Piccolo, but out of the stuff that we didn't see yesterday, I think honestly LEMO might be the figure I'm the most excited for, just because that's something that I would have not expected them to make in a million years. So very, very cool. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you in the next one. Dokkan Assets out. Peace.